It's your boy Brando. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have another video for you guys today. Today we are reacting to these episodes will make you hate Mordecai. Shout out to Corin. Corin. Yeah, bro, I love Regular Show. I grew up with it. It's been one of my favorite cartoons of all time. So this is gonna be a video that actually hits a lot for me. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. This man Mordecai was cool as fuck. But if y'all really look at it, this man really was a dick, bro. I mean, bro, this man unalived Rigby for Margaret. Yeah, so this is finna be this is finna be something serious. But let's go ahead and get into the video. If you guys want to see the original video, it's in the description down below. If you guys want to see more videos, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. We're at 150 subscribers. I thank y'all for that. Keep hitting that subscribe button and let's get into the video.
Any animated show in history. I remember when I first started watching this show, I thought the characters not only had unique designs, but also had interesting personalities that made them all stand out. And as I got older, I started...
Y'all know, like, just quick fun fact, y'all know they're bringing this back. Like, y'all know, like, the regular show is actually coming back. And, like, for one, what's actually cool, the original voice actor for Skips, he actually has already accepted the role back.
To feel like I really resonated with many of the characters more than when I was watching as a kid. But even though I love many of these characters in this show, there's always been one character that I've always had a weird relationship with, and that was Mordecai. Because if I'm being honest, when I first started watching this show, Mordecai was one of my favorite characters, especially in the earlier seasons.
He was cool, bro. Like, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, he was cool. But, like, if you really look at it, like, if y'all really look at Mordecai, dog, this nigga really was a dickhead.
But I remember as the show would start to get into the later seasons, even though I couldn't exactly put my finger on what it was, I would begin to really dislike Mordecai as a character. And it was only after I revisited Regular Show again now that I'm in my 20s that I was able to realize something that was so obvious. Mordecai kinda sucks. And after I realized this, you wouldn't believe my surprise when I found out that I'm not the only one who feels this way, as a large portion of the Regular Show fan base really hate Mordecai.
Why was he caked up?
And while he still has his fans, it seems like many of them, as well as casual watchers, don't understand the Mordo hate train. So in this video, I'm gonna go over a couple of episodes that really made me and will probably make you hate me.
I can guarantee you the one episode that's gonna make this list is the list where he throws Rigby off that microwave.
Mordecai. Now, something that gets looked over a lot when people talk about Mordecai's character is just how scummy of a friend he really was. And look, don't get me wrong, Mordecai does have moments where he's actually a good friend.
He did.
For example, when he won the Excellent Challenge so that he could win the trucker hat for Rigby to get him out of his coma. But while Mordecai does do some big things like this that make him seem like a good friend, a lot of people ignore his day-by-day trash behavior. Let's take a look at how he treats Rigby for example.
He always punches Rigby.
No, I'm not going to use the infamous "I'll kill you" scene.
Okay, so he mentioned it.
Episode "It's Time" as the knock against him. Because what a lot of people forget about that scene is while Mordecai did push Rigby off.
Okay, yes, Rigby was pushing him to the limit.
The microwave, Rigby pushed Mordecai first, and Rigby was the reason they were even on the microwave as Rigby jumped on Mordecai's back as the microwave was warping. On top of that, Mordecai screaming out "I'll kill you" wasn't supposed to be taken serious, as Rigby had told that to Mordecai multiple times throughout season 1. And clearly the instant regret Mordecai had on his face when he saw Rigby fade into nothing showed that he wasn't intentionally trying to hurt Rigby. Or at least he wasn't in that moment. Because if we go to the season 1 episode Death Punchies, it tells a completely different story. The episode starts off with Rigby and Mordecai getting a new video game, and obviously after getting the new game, they want to start it up and start playing. And right as the two go to pick their characters, they begin to argue over who's going to be player 1. Both of them want to be player 1 because player 1 has a shovel while player 2 has a quote-unquote sucky pickaxe. So to settle who gets to be player 1, Mordecai suggests that they both play punchies, a game where whoever punches the other one the hardest wins. Rigby goes first by throwing his punch, which doesn't even faze Mordecai. Mordecai then takes his turn by punching Rigby all the way across the sofa with the biggest smile on his face. Rigby then complains about how it's unfair that every time they have to decide something, Mordecai makes them play punchies because he knows there's no way that he can beat Mordecai. The episode then follows Rigby as he tries to find a way to beat Mordecai in punchies. He then learns a Def Kwon Do technique called the Def Punch and prepares to rematch Mordecai. But Mordecai learns about Rigby's plan and goes to the same Def Kwon Do dojo to learn a technique to keep Rigby from beating him at punchies. The two then have a Def Kwon Do showdown as Rigby uses the Def Punch and Mordecai uses the Def Block. And as you could guess, Mordecai's Def Block cancels out Rigby's Def Punch, leaving them both at a stalemate. But Rigby doesn't give up, continuing to spam the Def Punch over and over to the point where him...
Okay, I see where he's going with this, but let's also remember the fact that this nigga Rigby saw the damage that his Death Punch did, And not only did he see the damage, when he finally saw it, he immediately thought to himself, I am going to hurt Mordecai. At this point, bro, he knew low-key that punch, if he really put everything in it, could have killed Mordecai had Mordecai not have learned Death Kwando.
And Mordecai are in an underground crater with lava flowing in. And while Mordecai is telling Rigby to stop, Rigby refuses until he beats Mordecai at punchies. It's then that we get a montage of Mordecai beating up Rigby throughout the years through several games of punchies. And when Mordecai realizes that Rigby won't stop until he wins a game of punchies, Mordecai lets him win and they both escape. Okay, now, so let's take a look at how Mordecai treats his friend in this episode. So we know from this episode that Mordecai openly acknowledges that Rigby is the weakest person in the park. Because when Rigby says that he can never beat Mordecai at punchies, Mordecai says this:
"Dude, you don't beat anybody at punchies."
Now from this clip, it's obvious that Mordecai not only knows that his friend is physically weaker than him, but also takes advantage of the fact that he can physically bully Rigby around. Mordecai purposely picks a game that he knows that Rigby could never beat him in so that he can consistently have his way. But not only does he...
I mean, let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen. These two are both immature individuals, okay? They're easily are. I get where he's going with this angle. But I mean, let's just keep it being. Rigby has done some BS. At this point, Rigby had been on some BS. He had done some BS to get Mordecai in trouble.
Beat Rigby at punchies. He takes joy in the fact that he can.
And then on top of that, spoiler alert: Rigby is the reason why Mordecai's in the park in the first place. Like, if y'all know, you know. Like, Mordecai isn't even supposed to be here. This man's actually supposed to be in college. So like, yeah, you know, Mordecai has bullied him, but I mean, Rigby low-key had this coming because Rigby is the reason why Mordecai's at the park.
Beat up Rigby. I mean, look at this clip. Does this look like someone who's just playing a game with their friend? And we see in this episode that Mordecai consistently beats up Rigby to the point where Rigby would rather die being burnt by lava than let Mordecai win another game of...
And that's just selfish, as being a child.
Punchies. And the craziest part is, this isn't even the worst time Mordecai was a complete jerk to Rigby. In the season 6 episode, Live With Your Back, we see that Mordecai...
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Mordecai was being a dickhead this episode. Watch.
They are working when CJ pulls up to pick up Mordecai early. Mordecai then asks Rigby if he can cover for him so that he can go with his girlfriend, and Rigby, trying to be a good friend, says yes. We then cut to another day where Mordecai and Rigby are working, and Mordecai asks Rigby out the blue if he can cover for him so that he can take CJ to a movie. Rigby, being a little bit more reluctant this time, still agrees and says yes. We then cut to yet another day of Mordecai asking Rigby if he can cover for him again so that he can go do something with CJ. And Rigby, even though he doesn't want to, still trying to be a good friend, says yes. We then cut to a park meeting where Benson's handing out everybody assignments. And Benson tells Mordecai that he needs him to help Rigby change light bulbs, to which Rigby says that he can do it on his own. Rigby is then laughed at by everybody and is told without Mordecai he would be completely useless. And Rigby, looking for his best friend to back him up and say that he's useful, has to sit in front of everybody and hear this.
You're basically the opposite of useful pretty much anytime we do anything.
But
I'm about to say, he low-key did like do my guy Rigby, and I can't lie.
That's not even the craziest part about this moment. The craziest part is when Rigby brings up how he's been covering for Mordecai for almost a week now. Mordecai says this:
Well,
Getting eager to appreciate the follow,
like,
bro.
there's genuinely no way I could be friends with someone after they told me this. Rigby ends up quitting his job at the park, and
I
he
mean,
ends up getting a job at a moving company where you have to lift everything with your back. And even though Rigby does hate the job, he's sticking through with this so that he can get his first paycheck to rub it.
you know what's crazy? Like, if you really look at it, throughout the whole series, this man Rigby isn't even looking for a girl. He has a girl hitting him majority of the series, and this man Mordecai is over here sipping, doing everything possible to get a girlfriend, and he didn't even end up with either of the girls that he was sipping over. That speaks volumes, bro. Stop just chasing girls that don't want you.
In Mordecai's face to show that he
That's
actually
wild.
is useful. At the end of the episode, Rigby has to move an entire truck by himself to get his first paycheck. And Eileen, who's been supporting Rigby throughout this entire time, brings Mordecai because
Eileen is a real one, bro. Find y'all an Eileen in your life.
she wants them to make up. Rigby then begins to argue with Mordecai, saying that Mordecai only uses him and treats him like trash.
Rigby, help me get a girlfriend. Let me borrow your time machine, Rigby. Rigby, I found a dumb sweater and I gotta return it. All you do is use me, man.
But I never asked you to do those things.
And the craziest part about Mordecai saying this is, if you've watched all the regular show, you know that he's lying. Mordecai consistently asks favors from Rigby, and Rigby, oftentimes trying to be a good friend, tries to help Mordecai out. But Mordecai is so self-centered that even when someone is consistently doing favors for them, he will look them in their eyes and tell them that's the least that they can do. And I think what I hate most about this episode is that although Eileen had good intentions, she says this.
Eileen, why'd you bring that guy here?
Because you guys are friends and you always support each other.
But the problem with this statement is, it's not true. Mordecai almost never supports Rigby when it's actually something important. Let's jump all the way to the season 7 finale, Rigby's graduation day special. One of the many plot points of season 7 was Rigby going back to school so that he could finally graduate. And this episode follows Rigby as he prepares to give a graduation day speech and the rest of the park members preparing for Rigby's graduation day party. And throughout this episode, you see that
Yeah, okay, now this is a good example. I will give him that. Mordecai was acting so envious of Rigby because Rigby was finally getting the attention. Y'all remember the episode where, like, he, like, revealed to everybody that this man didn't graduate and he was making fun of him?
That everybody's all excited for Rigby. Everybody's doing their best to make sure that Rigby has the best graduation party. Everybody's so happy except for Mordecai. Mordecai throughout this episode is consistently blowing off Rigby. He's consistently acting like he doesn't want to help with Rigby's graduation party. And when Rigby reaches out to Mordecai multiple times asking him for help with his graduation day speech, Mordecai tells Rigby that he needs to learn how to do stuff on his own and blows him off. Even though Rigby had been doing stuff on his own for almost the entire season. And it's only after Rigby completely fails at giving his speech the first time around, almost embarrassing himself in front of everybody that he knows, that Mordecai actually comes up to Rigby and tells him why he's been acting the way he's been acting. And this was Mordecai's whole justification of why he's been blowing off his best friend on one of the most important days of his life.
It's hard to see you doing so great. I guess I always kind of liked that I was doing better than you before.
Mordecai liked the fact that he was better than Rigby, and when Rigby looked like he was going to be on the same level as Mordecai, Mordecai couldn't handle it. Now tell me, does that actually sound like a real friend, someone that you would want to have around you, or does that just sound like a hater disguised as a friend? Rigby's graduation day should have had nothing to do with Mordecai. It should have been a celebration of Rigby's hard work and accomplishments. But all Mordecai could think about is how it makes him look worse by comparison. But I promise you, this isn't even the best example of how Mordecai will take something that has nothing to do with him and try to make it completely revolve around him. In the season 6 finale dumped at the altar, the episode starts off with Mordecai confused about what to do after he finds out that Margaret has feelings for him even though he's with CJ. Mind you, while Mordecai's focusing on a love triangle, everybody's preparing for Muscle Man's wedding. We then fast forward to the actual day of the wedding, and Mordecai's still caught up on his love triangle even though he's supposed to be helping set up for the wedding. Fast forward again in the episode, and Muscle Man is freaking out because he says he won't get married until he reads the letter that Muscle Dad wrote for him. Mordecai and Rigby are then assigned to go to Muscle Man's trailer and find the actual letter. And while looking for the letter, Mordecai talks to Rigby about his relationship issues, and Rigby tells Mordecai that he just needs to trust his gut. The two end up finding the letter and rush back to the ceremony to give it to Muscle Man to read. But Muscle Man is so emotional, he says that Mordecai has to be the one to read it to him out loud. And Mordecai does read the letter, which then gives Muscle Man the strength to start the wedding back up again. But before they can continue the ceremony, Mordecai hijacks the wedding by grabbing a microphone and going on a rant about finding his true love and not knowing if his soulmate is even in the audience. Mind you, his girlfriend is in the audience.
CJ and Margaret are both in the audience.
And as you could guess, CJ gets up and storms out crying. And Muscle Man calls out Mordecai for hijacking his wedding while everybody's looking at Mordecai like the jerk he is. Because this man didn't know which girl he wanted to be with even though he already had a girlfriend. And his best friend Rigby told him to trust his gut. He thought the best thing to do was to hijack one of his closest friends' weddings after reading the emotional message that his dead dad wrote for him for his wedding day. I don't know about y'all, but I don't think it gets any more self-centered than that. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I can't even understand how I used to like Mordecai as a character. And what I think the worst part about Mordecai's character is, he never really gets any real repercussions for the stuff that he does. Like, even after he hijacked Muscle Man's wedding, nobody really told him anything. And it's like Mordecai acts like a jerk time after time again, and he just says, "I'm sorry for it," and the audience is supposed to just take that. Look, all I can say is we're Team Rigby over here. But if you made it to the end of the video, please hit the like button as it pushes the content out to more people. And make sure to subscribe and hit the noti bell to be notified when I upload my next video. And until then, it's been your boy CornXV, and I'm off this.
Okay. My final thoughts. Yes, it was whatchamacallit. Yes, Mordecai was self-centered. And Rigby got treated like crap. But in the long run, bro, it was really kind of on Rigby. I mean, Rigby would have never had to deal with that if Rigby didn't sit there and lie and didn't turn in Mordecai's, what was it, like a graduation or submission letter? Because they knew Rigby was actually, Rigby knew Mordecai was going to go off and have a better life, but he didn't give it to him. People sometimes ignore Rigby's character development or in denial of Mordecai's character downgrade. It's crazy how at the beginning of the show, Mordecai and Rigby are huge losers, but Rigby actually has some development while Mordecai still stays a loser. It's funny how Rigby went from generally most hated characters to most loved characters. Mordecai went opposite. I mean, bro, yes, it was messed up. But you have to think, y'all are still forgetting the fact that it was on Rigby to why he didn't get accepted. Am I not tripping? Now granted, I will say that is no excuse for how Mordecai treated Rigby. He definitely was intrigued by the fact that Rigby was lower than him and a lower status than him, and he definitely used that and kind of fed his ego. And so, like, obviously when Rigby, when Rigby, started going higher up in the world, he had a girlfriend, he, graduated. Even in like the episode where Rigby helped Eileen with her flat screen, he even got mad at Rigby and called him low-key selfish, because it's like, why don't you invite me around when you're hanging out with Eileen? Why is it that you only get to hang out with Eileen or something like that? It was selfish. And that's just, that's a good example of, like Mordecai being a dickhead. But at the same time, Rigby did have his flaws. I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I'm low-key team not Skips, Rigby. Rigby did have a really good character development, even though some of it was on Mordecai, But if you guys enjoyed this type of video, make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment below if you like regular show and who your favorite character was. I think one of mine would definitely have to be like probably Skips, even though Skips, had to deal a lot with his past. I fuck with Skips heavy, and I fuck with High Five Ghost. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys subscribe to Corin. He's obviously on the rise as a YouTuber, and this was a really good video by him. Make sure you guys like his videos in the description. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel and like my channel if you guys want to see more reactions. Follow me at ayo_brando at twitchtv.com. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next one.